Hi. I was talking to somebody the other day whose little child has recently been diagnosed with autism. And I was going through some of the things that they're finding challenging. And it reminded me a lot of when Kieran was a similar age. And obviously, we've managed to overcome some of these things in time. So I thought it might be helpful to talk about what we did. Now, one of the things was eating with a spoon and feeding himself. And these are the things that we would take for granted when our children are small because they just copy us. But of course, one of the things that I learned was that Kieran couldn't copy. So everything that we did with him was hand over hand, which was me holding his hand and guiding him. But he wasn't particularly keen on that. So for quite a long time, I was still feeding him above what we would expect to be sort of the normal parameters of age for being fed and learning to feed yourself. So we came up with a cunning plan. Kieran really liked ice cream and Kieran really liked Smarties. So what we would do is put a Smartie on top of the ice cream, and then he would have to use his spoon to dig in and get the Smartie. He really wanted the Smartie. And the only way he could get that Smartie is if he used his spoon to pick it up and then take it to his mouth. What he used to try and do, because he's very clever, was try and pick the Smartie off with his other hand, of course, because I'd have my hand over his to help guide him. And there's a lot about muscle memory as well in his hand going down to the bowl, using the spoon and back to his mouth. So his brain was learning that that's what we do. And but his brain was also learning that his other hand could dive in and get the Smartie. So it did take a really long time. Everything with Kieran has taken a really long time. I should have kept a diary. I just didn't have time to keep a diary or think about keeping a diary. I was in a very different place then. But by the time he went to school, so sort of 4.5, 5, he could spoon feed himself. I mean, he needed lots of encouragement and lots of reminding. And even now, he finds it easier sometimes just to plunge in with both the shovels, so to speak. And you have to remind him, Kieran, use your spoon. Kieran, use a fork. And he will. And he's extremely proficient, has been for years. But it did take a long time. And that's how we mastered it. Smarties and ice cream. And it was funny actually because the OT was trying to get him to, because his fine motor skills were very, very limited. She was trying to get him to take things out of a jelly with some tweezers. So she'd put all sorts of things that he might like, little toys, in this jelly and set it. And one of the things that was in there was a plastic spoon. And he just went straight in with his hand, picked the spoon out and then started feeding himself the jelly. And that was not the exercise, but it was funny. Anyway, so that was one thing that we did. And the other thing that he really struggled with was sucking from a straw. And this is really good because when we suck from a straw, something happens at the back of our brain which helps with our communication. So it's a very important skill to have. I didn't know that then. I just thought it's like useful because it's easier to drink from a straw, right? Anyway, I was at my friend's children's party when Kieran got the skill to drink from a straw, and I just shouted out, he's drinking from a straw! And all the other parents looked at me as though I'd lost the plot because he was obviously older than most of the children who'd got that skill. But for me, it was amazing. I was so happy. And what we did with the straw, we had the little juice boxes and we'd put the straw in so the straw would just about get a tiny amount of the juice. And then we would squeeze the box so the juice would go up the straw and into his mouth, and then he could taste a little bit and would want more. And it was really down to him because it's really difficult to teach somebody to go through a straw. It's very difficult. And we would do the facial expressions. We'd have our own straws and we would show him. But to actually achieve that was very difficult. But that's what we did every day. Give him his little drink, a little box, squeeze it so a little bit of the juice would go up, and then tempt him to drink some more. And again, it took a very, very long time, but he got there. Like with everything, he got there. He really did. And then, once he's done that, and it's much easier when you're out and about to give them a drink with a straw than from an open cup. And open cups was a challenge as well, actually, because he thought open cups belonged on your feet or on your head or on your little fist, on the floor. Certainly not to be used for drinking with. That was a mad idea. So what we did with the open cup, again, hand over hand, and we would show him Mummy drink, and then Daniel drink, Daddy drink, and Kieran drink, and we would just hold it up so a tiny amount of liquid would go in his mouth, because otherwise it would just go down. It'd be like in that episode of Friends where Joey's drinking a gallon of milk in a minute. You need to see that one. But it took a long time, just to very gently, hand over hand, lots of patience, limited language, and teach him to hold his drink. And of course what we would do is give a tiny little bit amount of drink in the cup initially, until he, you know, gained that skill. And it's strange really, because these days he goes to the fridge, he gets his juice out, and he gets a cup and he pours his juice. He pours the right amount of juice. You know, we went through a long time of him just overspilling the cup everywhere, because he didn't know that you should stop, and that was another skill. And we drew lines on the cups for that, by the way, and to say, you know, pour to here, till he doesn't need that now. I mean, there's so many things he does now that I've forgotten that we actually had to teach him along the way, because he's 18 now, and we started all this when he was 2.5. But he will, you know, he'll go and get his drink, he'll choose it, he knows what to do, he'll pour his drink, he'll drink his drink, he puts his cup in the dishwasher. All of those things he just does now, that I'd forgotten that he didn't do, couldn't do, didn't know you had to do. But it's like everything, you know, patience, understanding there's no timeline. Does it matter if he drinks from an open cup? No, not really. It's better for him, it's easier for him, it's easier for everybody. It's nicer to be able to go out to a cafe or a restaurant and order a proper drink for him. But just these things take a little bit of extra time. And if your little person can't quite do that yet, it's coming, don't worry. Just take your time, take their time, and model everything, and do lots of hand over hand. That worked for us. Good luck, and God bless.